What is the difference between Ranger School and Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, otherwise known as RASP? This is a question I've been asked recently. I've also been asked it in the past, and recently being asked the question kind of inspired the idea that, hey, maybe I should just make a video that talks about what is the two differences between those two things. And if you're finding yourself curious about the United States Army, whether it's to join the Army, you're currently in, you're just curious about the Army, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Also click on that bell so you can join the notification platoon and get alerts when new videos go live. So let's get into things and let's talk about the difference between Ranger School and RASP. To start off with, they both have to do with Rangers, right? They're both in some form or fashion associated with the Rangers, okay? And they are both approximately about 8 weeks long, but they each have their own kind of special purpose. So we'll start off talking about Ranger School. Now, not specifically talking about what happens at Ranger School. I have a video that talks about that as well as RASP, but specifically talking about what is the difference. Now, what happens at Ranger School as far as what is the intent of it. To go to Ranger School, it just usually takes you talking to your leadership and them being confident enough in you to make it worth their while for them to want to send you to Ranger School, have the funds to be able to do so, and the availability for you to go to that school. And essentially, Ranger School is more of an advanced leadership type of course. So sure, you do Ranger stuff type of thing, but really the idea of it is to make advanced leaders, to go through this course and make people better leaders. This is very key, especially for like 11 Bravo officers. It's kind of like a thing where, you know, if you have an officer that's infantry, that's 11 Bravo, or actually they're 11 Alpha or whatever it is, the officer equivalent of 11 Bravo, you have an officer that is infantry and doesn't have a Ranger tab, a lot of people kind of look down on that. So that's usually like a key thing for especially infantry officers to be able to receive this Ranger tab. But you don't have to be an officer to go through the school. So you go through the school, you complete that school, and if you complete the school, then you get to wear the awesome Ranger tab that goes on your uniform. And once you are done with the course, you go back to your unit, you go back to doing whatever it is you were doing, but now you have an awesome Ranger tab that is really for show and probably looks good on probably promotion stuff, you know, your NCO YARs for getting promoted to the next rank of NCO and everything. But essentially, it doesn't enhance your job at all. It just makes it to where now you're Ranger qualified, I guess you could think of it as. You have the Ranger tab and you go back doing your regular job at your regular MOS. Now, different from RASP, but the Ranger Assessment and Selection Program, that one also approximately about 8 weeks long. You go off to that course, you get sent to it, your unit wants to send you to it, you apply to go to do that kind of a thing, or you try to come into the Army doing that, because you can also do that as well, try to come into the Army with a contract to go Ranger, but you go off to this course, and this one a little bit different. Now, there might be some similarities as far as what you do, but both probably being very, you know, tough on the body, kind of rigorous and tough. RASP being a little bit harder on that, because now it doesn't matter if you go through the whole entire course and pass it, you're not automatically guaranteed to get selected. At this point, now it's a thing where the other, you know, instructors, the other peers and everything like that decide who did good enough at RASP to actually get selected, because if you get selected, then you go off to the 75th Ranger Regiment. And that is what typically is considered being a Ranger, right? Is being actually in the 75th Ranger Regiment. Having the tab, some people argue saying that's being a Ranger too, but a lot of people will probably tell you that no, a Ranger is somebody that actually went through RASP, completed it, and goes off to the 75th Ranger Regiment. Now, going Ranger is not a specific MOS. It's not like Special Forces where you become like 18 series MOS. You still continue doing your MOS. There are only select MOSs available to go into the Rangers. So like, for example, I think a 19 Delta Scout, I believe that's one of the MOSs that is not available inside the Rangers. There are actually a lot of MOSs that are available, but there are a few here and there that are not available to go into the Ranger Battalion to become a part of the 75th Ranger Regiment. Even mild MOS is available, so I could have been an 88 Mike Ranger. I could have said that, hey, I'm a Ranger, had I gone off to, at that time it was called RIP, but RASP, you know, in nowadays, current one, if I was an 88 Mike, went off to RASP, I could be an 88 Mike and be a Ranger in the Ranger Battalion, doing 88 Mike stuff, but with the Rangers. So not all Rangers are specifically like infantry type of thing. I mean, technically you go through RASP and you complete it, you're a Ranger, and you go off to the 75th Ranger. I mean, you have to complete it, get selected, and then go to the 75th Rangers. So going off to the 75th Ranger Regiment at your MOS, doing your job, makes you what most people call a Ranger. That's also kind of another misconception, though, is that everybody thinks that all Rangers are all infantry. No, I mean, you could be like camo, you could be support elements, you could be infantry, you could be all sorts of MOSs, because there are a ton of MOSs that are acceptable to go into the Rangers to be a Ranger. So with that one, with RASP, you don't go back to your regular unit. Like if you were already in the Army, you got accepted to go off to RASP and you got selected and everything like that, well, now you're not gonna be going back to your old unit, you're gonna be now going off to the 75th Ranger Battalion. You probably would still go back to your unit to clear them and kind of out-process and everything like that and then have to report to the 75th Rangers. But nonetheless, you are now gonna go do your job at that battalion. Now, the Ranger School that I talked about is not actually required for the 75th Rangers until you become a non-commissioned officer, or if you're gonna be an officer. And then there's also another level, I think there's like Ranger School 2 or something like that, but there are multiple kind of levels to that. But essentially, it's not necessarily required that you go to Ranger School in the 75th Rangers if you went through RASP until you usually become a non-commissioned officer or an officer. And essentially, without getting too knee deep into what happens at the Rangers, what happens at RASP compared to what happens at Ranger School, that is really a difference, right? The short version of what is the difference between RASP and Ranger School, one is essentially a advanced leadership course. The other one is a selection course to determine if you're going to become a Ranger in the 75th Ranger Regiment. If you can think of any other questions that are related to what's the difference between this and that in the United States Army, I want to hear about that down in the comment section down below. Otherwise, general questions about the United States Army, be sure to drop those down in the comment section. I'll try to answer them. Maybe they'll inspire a future video, and because of you, we'll have some more great content to continue doing here on the Christopher Chaos channel. And if you want to continue that journey, make sure you check out this video right here because YouTube says it's a great video to watch. Check out my links down in the description box down below for social media, my affiliate links, maybe save a little bit of money on certain great products. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Christopher Chaos. I'll see you next time. See ya.